Good evening and welcome to SAFC Fancast. Sorry, Jonathan dropped off and dropped back on. I guess he just didn't want to be on the top. So, you're now on the bottom bunk as we've seen behind you. But to get started here, welcoming just off the 50-50 pod, talking high school soccer playoffs. Go Southwest Dragons. Just out of the two of us, I was on the Southwest bandwagon before Rafa was many years ago, but that's just me.
Hey, I'm
Rafa,
on the Grapevine.
Good.
I'm on the Grapevine bandwagon right now. But
Dude,
yeah, if you didn't get to see the episode, make sure to tune in like this 50-50 podcast on YouTube and on X and Instagram. Episode 8, it's on there, so check it out. We had some great guests from Coach from Prosper and the coach from Mesquite Poteet who took down El Cucuy in the regional semifinal.
How Grapevine pick made it through amazes me. I thought you guys were crazy. They hadn't won 3 games in a row all year, and then here they are. One went away from state. So
that's why we as coaches get paid the big bucks.
I don't think you guys have them winning this week here, so I think the road.
No, I had them winning the whole thing.
Oh, you did?
I had them winning the whole thing. Now they had a tough game against Argyle, so it's not a gimme game. So, but I think if they get by that one, I think they got to be a clear favorite to win it all.
Speaking of tough games, well, hold on, we got to introduce Jonathan. I made the bunk bed joke, but I didn't introduce him. Jonathan from Bluish Moon, with a great preview. And if you didn't listen to the Saturday morning preview on the second one, because the first one was with Crane Kicks Lex, and like I said, that's a fun episode. I know the game is over, but that was a fun episode with that podcast here with Tyler. But we went over with me and Royce in the early hours of Saturday morning, promoting Jonathan's key to the game, which it was. So kudos to Jonathan. I would do the normal clap that we can have here, but I know you hate it, so I won't.
Thank you very much for mostly for not using that ridiculous clapping sound effect, but also for the shout out of my preview. You know, I heard you and Royce talking about it, and yeah, I think that, and I even mentioned it during the match because it ended up being a bit prescient in sort of a bad way for SAFC, having to deal with those through balls. And I'm actually possibly going to be referencing that same quote again later in the show, along with sort of a post-match quote that, you know, sort of shows the other side of the coin. And then also, just for the heck of it, since we're talking about the preview, I had mentioned I can inject a fun bit of trivia. Royce had said when he was talking about Andres Paredes finally getting into camp, he's number 32, and he was saying that might be one. Yeah, so he is not the first one to wear 32. He's not the second one to wear 32, as a matter of fact. Did you try and look it up or anything, Harry?
I did not know. I didn't. I just let it go because Royce, you know, he does a lot of research. So I just took his word for it.
Dioff wore 32.
Yes.
There you go. You actually got one of them in 2022. Yeah. I mean, I was going to save these for the end, let everyone try and think about it. But
no, I already gave them one, so they can find the other one.
Okay, fair enough. You guys remind me for my closing thoughts. I need to name the other one. Read it, or listeners can think about it. And I have a feeling you're probably not going to get it. It's maybe a bit of a name that's kind of forgotten in a sense, weird as it is.
I will say, and I have to do this, Jonathan, because it's being asked by the crowd, and of course, we are a crowd-friendly show.
Oh boy. Oh, they just want the sound effect.
The crowd, yes. I didn't do it loud for you. I kept it at a minimal.
Okay, all right.
But
I mean, if someone else wanted it, like that's fine. It's just when you do it that I hate it.
you hate a lot of things that I do, but we are here
Touche.
for the hair. So, but I lost my train of thought here. 32, the clap. What else were we talking about? I don't know. I lost the train of thought here.
I think we were pretty much ready to go into the game, and then you realized you had to do the intro for me. So, what a game!
It was an interesting game. So we'll let you start out with the injury report because it was nice and long.
Yeah, sure. For I think the third week now, blank injury report. There was no one there. You had Shannon Gomez and Mohamed Omar back from international duty, so theoretically, basically a full squad there, at least in terms of everyone you've got in camp right now. If you watch the match, you will know that for the second week in a row, SAFC did have someone come off with what appears, looks kind of concerning. Mitch Tainer, former defender of the year, not ideal. Last week with Alex Grieve, he ended up being okay he wasn't on the injury report at the very least, so it didn't end up being too serious. And I'm sure SAFC fans are hoping that the same can be said for Tainter, that it was just a low precaution, but it did not look pleasant.
It did not, and I will say because there were some key names missing. You already missed one, so Nemani. I know what I was going to mention here, and I'll do this afterwards because this kind of ties into it. Alexis Soe, Juan Osorio, Lucio Leron, Nicky Hernandez, Dimitri, and then Juan Agudelo. But Shannon was missing, and Grieve was missing on there. The starters: Jake LaCava, Diego Pacheco, Jimmy Medranda, Almir Soto, Jorge Hernandez, Luke Hawkinson, Nelson Blanco Flores, Mitch, Alex,
Reese Buckmaster.
Alex, his last name, Cornelli. Reese Buckmaster, and then of course the Stash, aka
the Stash,
Richard Sanchez, for that here. Thoughts on the lineup? No Nicky for the first time, which was I thought interesting. Still no Agudelo. I know when we did the starting lineup, we thought Agudelo would get the start. Royce has been talking about player rotation. Your thoughts on the lineup here? And it was a traditional 4-4-2. Blanco, Tainer, Canali, Buckmaster, Jimmy Miranda, Soto, Hernandez, Hawkinson, LaCava, Pacheco up top. We'll start with you, Jonathan. Your thoughts on the 18 and then the starting lineup. At any omissions, any surprises for you?
Yeah, well, first of all, for me, like you said, 4-4-2, and I mean, I'm looking at the average positions now. Yeah, that seems about right. It's not, misleading or anything. That was something I think the week before we thought SAFC was in a bit of a different formation, but actually, if you looked at the average positions, I think it was Juan Sebastian Osorio was almost playing in the position of a right back, so it may have been more familiar than we thought. But yeah, this week, 4-4-2, nothing too crazy, except I would say the most interesting thing, Jimmy Medranda playing sort of in midfield as a left midfielder. But then if you actually look at the average positions, he was almost playing alongside Almir Soto in the center, which you can say maybe SAFC kind of needed. And we'll get into some of how things developed during the match that made that necessary. But yeah, you had Medranda officially in a more attacking position, which I think makes a lot of sense because he's shown early this season that even if he is the left back, he is more than capable and more than willing to get up and contribute to the attack. And it really paid dividends in this match, as we'll get into. But yeah, Medranda, I think, would be the only big change for me, I'd say. I mean, there were a few little lineup changes. And like you said, okay, not having Nicky, sure. But Medranda kind of covered for that.
Well, I think what you kind of just hint at is kind of surprising because SAFC listed as a 4-4-2, but I just went on to the USL Championship under the scores page for this one here.
Mm-hmm.
They listed as a 4-2-3-1 with Soto and Jimmy, as you mentioned, more defensive. Luke, Jorge, and LaCava up top, and Dogo Pacheco, by himself. Is that kind of what you saw? I know we were at the watch party, and thank you to the Spurs and SAFC for hosting it there at the Rock. Was a fun event, and sorry that I know Mike and Jenny were going to go, but unfortunately they were unable to make it out to there here. But it had a pretty good turnout here. But your kind of thoughts on the lineup and the differences, I guess you could say, because there are differences between what the league says and what SAFC posted. I don't know if that's by design or just on how it worked out.
I think it was a 4-2-3-1. The way where Madrona was at, kind of like I said, the two holding mids, and Jorge was basically coming up a lot from the middle. Pacheco was probably your lone striker up top. So you have LaCava and Luke on the wings. So, and that's where they normally play anyway. So, I mean, you could literally also say maybe they did play a 4-3-3 because it is kind of that too. As far as attacking, it's a 4-3-3, but defending wise, like I said, it's a 4-2-3-1. So it's basically interchangeable. So yeah, I guess because the last game we did play a 4-4-2, but they probably kind of assumed that. But in the game, you can clearly tell it was a 4-2-3-1.
So the game starts out. We'll let you kind of describe the early action. There was let's just say the first 20 minutes. I posted that in a chat with another group that I'm in, that it seems like SAFC did not get off the bus because they were flat out getting run out of the building, and especially defensively. And to me, offensively, it seemed like they were struggling to even connect passes through that. And some of it was Lexington. Don't get me wrong, because Lexington is a good team. But at least in my view, I thought it was kind of more SAFC not focusing, just they were a step slow off, whatever you want to call it. But Jonathan, your thoughts on the first 20 minutes before things kind of turned around?
Yeah, kind of similar to the week before, maybe. I said SAFC scores within the first 5 minutes in Oakland, and you look at that goal and you think Oakland's defense is not quite there yet. They're kind of just standing around watching it happen. They're not trying to actively prevent it. In a similar sense here, SAFC's defense in particular felt a little slow to react in the early stages last night, and a little more passive in their defending, I guess I would say. Sometimes they were sort of waiting to see what Lexington and their various attacking players would do, rather than just kind of going for it and trying to shut them down. And even before the first goal, you had kind of a warning shot, if people remember. Lexington plays through the center and it finds its way to Corey Burke, and he tries to take a shot from the top of the box. And luckily, Richard Sanchez had come out. He gets a piece of it. He's able to deflect it out for a corner.
Mm-hmm.
But that was, I mean, looking back, that was a huge indicator of things to come. And it was kind of a sign of how Lexington was going to be playing those dangerous through balls that, as you mentioned, Carlos Llamosa was aware of. But then you see in the 11th minute, questions of offside. I don't know how much we want to get into that. We maybe will in a second, but ball played through on the left to Kieran Sargent, who, if I can toot my own horn again, my preview, spot on with that pick. He ended up being very important in that sequence. He makes that really well-timed run on the left. Even if it was offside, he sold it. He made it look good, and he's able to square it ultimately for Nicholas Firmino. SAFC's defense again just kind of not quite like a step behind basically. And then 5 minutes later, you have another ball, this time sort of through the center. It finds its way to Marcus Epps. He had, I think it was Sanchez maybe kind of stalled him out of it, but Epps kept control and then is able to square it for Corey Burke. He heads it in from a yard or two out, and all of a sudden SAFC is down not just 1-0 but 2-0. And SAFC had not faced a deficit so far this season. Since they had only conceded the one goal before this, and that was in Oakland, and that was just an equalizer. This was all of a sudden a very unfamiliar situation for SAFC. And I think everyone was kind of puffing their cheeks and going, okay, this is not the right start. So I don't know what you guys want to say about how things began in those opening stages.
I think there's a lot of defensive mistakes, especially that's just passive, allowing them space instead of engaging and trying
through
to close
the middle,
space.
right? Though,
Yeah, through the middle.
Through the
Mhm.
middle. That was the whole.
And I think even throughout the whole game too, in which I'll kind of talk about later on, especially in the second half, we weren't like I said, we weren't closing in on them. We were, like you mentioned, we were kind of waiting to see what they were doing instead of just kind of being a little aggressive how we have the last game. I mean, that's how Oakland kind of got that goal. Yeah, it was a beautiful goal, but if you pressure him, maybe he shoots it over the crossbar. But even the second goal too, with that pass in the middle high, I think had Tanner challenged that, maybe a little header, he could have probably reached that, headed it away, or even a foul there too. I would have been okay with it because it would not led to a goal. He kind of hesitated, and that allowed that one to go in. So, uh, but the thing is this: like I said, they had us on the ropes, and we weren't. They were still kind of confused, of like, what do we need to do to fix this? But had this been last year's team, we'd probably been routed. This year's team, the next 20 minutes, they stuck to the game plan, which I want to go into further, but something happened in this last 20 minutes, so they made an adjustment to kind of counter that attack a bit. But which we'll get, like I said, we'll get into in a bit. But first, right now, for the first 20 minutes, like I said, just weren't playing well defensively.
So I'll talk about the offside calls on both of them because I know I put out there that, hey, pro referees missed it, and then Jonathan put something up. Well, maybe not. And of course, this is USL. There is no VAR. There is the goal. The sites that we see are always at an angle. But the first goal, from a SanAntonio point of view, it definitely looked clearly offsides because the guy was 2 yards in front of the SAFC player. However, when you go back and watch it, even on the highlights, you'll see one of the SAFC defenders jump forward, and that's where maybe I kind of give a little bit of credence to what Jonathan posted, and obviously pro referees are professionals for a reason, and I'm just a guy that was watching on a big screen at the Rock. Did not drink any beer. Just, dude, the prices of beers at the Rock way too much.
Probably not even good beer either.
I don't know. I just saw the prices and I was like $16, and I was like, yeah, no, I
didn't even see what it was. Yeah, no, that's fair.
Just never mind. But anyways, it was a fun time, and I wasn't there to drink, so it is what it is. But I was giving crap to Lexington because they had $1.50 beer nights, not dollar beer night, but $1.50 beer nights. But yeah, and then you go to the Rock and it's $16, and I was like, all right, it is what it is. But to me, like I said here,
I was just gonna say, I think in Kentucky they probably do $1.50 beer, but then just $1 for your bourbon. You go up to a cask or something, and it's just serve yourself whatever.
So, but no, to me, so like the offside calls, I thought, and then even to me, the other one that I thought was kind of questionable was the second goal, because by the time on the video, if you look at it, the Lexington forward, Burke, to me, at best was even with the goalkeeper. If not, if he wasn't even, then there was only one person behind because he was ahead of the defender that was supposed to be on him. He had a step on him. So to me, those two could have been called offsides. I know when we get to the next 20 minutes, there's a call that may have went SanAntonio's way for that here, and we know some what's his name, Chelsea guy. Hold on here. There was a fan that was in the stands that was catching some grief because he was celebrating. Golidio's Socios. If you follow him, he's
Thomas Clark, I think, is his name,
Clark.
like his actual
Clark.
name.
Yeah, that's his name. But yeah, if you follow him, he's a huge Chelsea fan and a great follow for SanAntonio FC. But he was actually at the game with him and his family. He mentioned that possibly security might needed to be called just because he was celebrating and the others next to him weren't celebrating for that here. But to me, the calls were kind of questionable. I do agree with Rafa that if it was last year, I wonder if this team would have had the same fight to come all the way back. And some of it's just bad luck. Last year, they couldn't create any good luck. This year, they did. So go to the second 20 minutes here, or get us the better half of the first half for SanAntonio FC there, Jonathan.
Yeah, so after that disastrous start for SAFC, in fact, heck, it's not even the next 20 minutes, it's really just the next 10, because in the 23rd minute, Jimmy Bendronda pulls one back for SAFC. That's what I'm going to say. If you haven't seen it, which I assume 99% of people listening to this have,
it's gotta be goal of the week.
Go and watch it because words do not do it justice. It's one of those where it kind of just falls to him. He's sort of around the corner of the box, and I kind of had a question of, is he trying to maybe just cross it in there? And then when I was looking at the highlights today, I'm like, no, the way he strikes that.
I don't even know how you strike it to be able to get
it. It's Roberto Carlos-esque type of shot.
Yeah, it really is. It's one of those that I'm looking at and I'm just like, okay, really well executed. But what are you thinking? You actually think you're going to pull that off? And then he does. Like, it's obviously amazing. But it kind of reminds me, for those who know me, I'm a Man City fan. It reminds me of a few years ago, the Vincent Kompany, the infamous "don't shoot," and then he blasted into the top corner to essentially, a very vital goal for City to win the title that year. I mean, this was another where it's just like, what is he thinking? Oh, okay, that's what he's thinking. He's whether it was luck or, he's certainly, like we've said, he's a skilled guy. He's able to get forward and contribute really well into attack. So he has that in his locker. If he does it 99 more times, who knows if he's able to replicate that, but he pulled it off perfectly this time. And like you alluded to, just like there was a question of the offside for the first Lexington goal, the second SAFC goal comes from a penalty where we had a bit of a heated debate in the SAFC Fancast group chat here. But to me, the ball's gone. Where it lands, it's like probably a yard or two, I think, beyond the end line. So I don't think SAFC really has a chance to keep that alive, to keep that attack, to get there and even just save it, much less for it to be in the right spot. But nonetheless, I believe it was Alex Cronali goes down in the box.
We have to take a timeout.
Oh, boy.
Mike Check brings up Matt's been excommunicated. He wishes his Dynamo were because they lost to Portland tonight and they are 0-4-2. So Matt, used the excuse that it's his mom's birthday. So happy birthday to Mama Gomez. Like I said here, thank you for all that you do for supporting Matt and our show for that here. However, we know the real reason why him and Stewart couldn't be here is because Portland put a shellacking on Matt's Dynamo here. But that is why Matt is not here. Robert is doing the Norm impression. If you're old enough to remember Cheers at the Pearl, I think he just left from from the watch party, from Mijo's birthday party, and he didn't even make it
At
home.
least,
He
at
just went.
least, at least he wasn't there for the Bremer's Law. So
He's like Bremer's who for like. Oh, here we go.
uh
Wasn't it just Tia Gama's birthday? But that's where Matt is. Like I said here, spending time with family, and like I said here, nothing wrong with that. For that here, we'll give him some grief about his Dynamo, and I think it was. He does seem to have a lot of birthdays coming up, or recent here. So we'll see for that here. But sorry to interrupt you, Jonathan. But when your dad speaks, I do acknowledge.
See, I've learned to ignore half of it. Oh, that's on the record. Yay. And also, while we're on the topic of Matt, it makes perfect sense. Go celebrate your mom's birthday. I don't think any of us were giving him any grief in the group chat or anything.
No,
we weren't
not at
kind
all.
of, poking fun
No.
at that. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. But anyway, yeah, going back to the circumstances surrounding being awarded that penalty. One of our Fancast group was saying, there's nothing that says if the ball's gone, nothing in the laws of the game. I'm like,
That was
okay,
Royce.
think of
Let's call him out.
I
That was
was I
Royce.
I was going to be nice and not name him, so Royce, you're welcome. I tried. But it's one of those
Just because
things where
Royce isn't here to defend him, Royce didn't send in his excuse.
okay,
I know we do the Saturday
like
morning.
Aguadillo not playing.
anyway, no, it just, if you think about it though, particularly in the box, particularly on set pieces, there are so many times when this jostling, sometimes players even go to the ground and the referee says, no, that's it. You guys are fighting, but I'm not going to award a penalty or anything for this. Like, it just kind of happens. If you watch matches, again, particularly on set pieces, on like corners, free kicks being served into the box, you see this jostling. You see sometimes players get thrown to the ground. And so often referees will shrug it off. They'll say, no, not enough in that, stop trying to win a penalty. This referee, I don't want to say took the bait or anything, but he saw fault with it, gave SAFC a penalty.
Alex sold it. If you watch his actions, because if you really look, and I understand from a Lexington side of you why you're kind of pissed off that this penalty was given. Was there contact? Yes. There's nobody I think that disputes the contact, but when Alex goes down, he basically does the frailing and goes down where it made the referee make that call. And as you mentioned here, probably 8 out of 10 times he doesn't get that call. Probably this is one of those two. One of that 20% where you get the call. And I really think it has to do with the art of the fall, I guess you could say. I don't want to say it was a dive because there was contact, and I know we say forwards dive all the time, but we had a center back that did pretty well. Rafa, your thoughts on Cernali's actions, being the small guy that he is, falling down like that?
I mean, he was touched. I mean, I think a referee like he can tell the difference if it's like a flop or not. That because if it was a flop, he would have pulled out that yellow card for simulation, and like I said, we go on. But he saw something that did kind of, like I said, that was a foul in the box and kind of impeded what he was trying to do, and so he gave the PK. I mean, there was no ifs, ands, or buts there. I mean, if they're gonna cry about it, hey, ask USL to put VAR. I mean, they can have VAR, but they don't want to do it. So
I don't know if you could flip. Well, I don't think you could flip it just because the camera angle on it, because there was contact.
Yeah.
For that here. And then I'll admit it, when Jorge stepped up to take the kick, I was nervous. I was like, why is Jorge taking PKs? Because his history of PKs is questionable at best.
I mean, not even just his history, but SAFC's history. I think there were a couple players, particularly early last season, that missed PKs, and it was just kind of like, okay, who wants to give it a shot now? And eventually, I think we kind of landed on Luis Salignac being the penalty taker. When he was fit for the second half of the season, you could rely on him. He would convert those. But yeah, I know. I'm 99% sure Jorge missed a penalty early last season, and it
Oh, I know I
happened.
did.
Yeah.
Well, I know the
And
biggest reason why I think we all have the oh my god it's Jorge is because in front of 114 he got 2 shots to take a PK and he missed both of them. And I'm sorry, Jorge. I love you, but I don't know if I'll ever get over that. But he slotted it right up the middle. They said it was a chip, and then they said it was what was it? I want to say a
Panenka.
Paninka.
Palenka.
To me, like I said, it was a great goal. For it to bring the game even. Then the game kind of settles down. Both teams stiffen up. Both teams still had opportunities in the first half, and even through the second half. But I thought it was going to end 2-2. I won't lie. Just on how the game was going, when it was 2-2, but about the 27th minute, I was like, oh, there's a lot of more goals left in this game. But then I think both defenses kind of woke up and said, okay, they adjusted each other. And I think Rafa mentioned this as the first half ended. Lexington was kind of down, heads hanging, a little bit shell shocked that SAFC came back, so quick.
They look defeated. You can tell by they look at the body language. For the effort they did the first 20 minutes, their walk outside, you can tell by the body language. They look like they had just lost the game and they lost confidence. And even after we got the second goal, we were still pressuring, and they were still making mistakes. Like I said, we were really the high press that we were doing was really trying to get to them, and they were starting making some mistakes, bad passes or balls sent this way, and we were stealing a lot of their passes in the midfield. So whatever Yamosa did as far as the adjustment after that second goal, it started working, and we started intercepting everything. And that's the kind of pretty much the turning point of the game there. Even though like I said, Lexington had their chances in the second half, but still, we kind of locked down on them, and like I said, we just kept the pressure, and they just couldn't handle that. Even though they're a quote unquote expansion, well, I mean, really say expansion team, they still had some experienced players, but they don't, like I said, they don't really have the chemistry yet. Maybe compared with kind of what we're in, we're gelling a little bit quicker, but you can tell they were not very comfortable after that adjustment, and we were stealing and winning every ball that they tried setting up into the gaps.
Okay, so since Rafa mentioned in there Carlos Hermosa making adjustments, I think this is the moment to interject sort of a before and after set of quotes for SAFC. One of these had been mentioned in the preview yesterday, so apologies for those who are hearing it again. But at media availability on Thursday, Carlos Hermosa had said, talking about Lexington, they can do a lot of passing, but we just have to make sure they don't do those passes in dangerous zones for us. If they kick the ball in the back a lot of times, that's fine for me, but we have to make sure behind we are secure, disrupting those through passes. They're really good at that, so that's something we've been working on this week. Obviously, as we saw, particularly early in that match, Lexington had a lot of success playing those balls through. SAFC was not disrupting that. But then after the match, obviously, as we know, SAFC was able to turn it around. Still had those early mistakes, but they were able to kind of close things down. Yamosa said, in the first half, they connected through the middle. They hurt us a lot and got possession through the middle. At halftime, we realized we needed to close the middle because we were worried they'd hurt us a lot with the 2 midfielders that they had and force every single ball to the outside. And then we looked better defensively. So he acknowledged that was something that he realized in the match. Okay, we don't have the midfield under control here. And I sort of alluded to it earlier. You really just had, and this was one of the weird things with the lineup, you had Amir Soto as sort of that defensive midfielder. You didn't have Nicky this time. And SAFC struggled in those early stages. And so then you see, as I alluded to, with the average positions, as we saw earlier, I think, as you put them on screen, Madranda shifting inside more. And that is probably a large factor of how SAFC was able to get some control there again.
Yeah, there's Madranda's right there in the
Yeah.
middle, right next to Soto.
Could you also say this is that, last year with, being down 2-0, we'd probably be forcing balls more direct. We'd be trying to force in. If you kind of see this, we stuck to our game plan as far as our style of play. They were patient, to get those 2 goals back. They stuck to what they know right now, and kudos to, like I said, Yamosa, the keeping them settled and just sticking to what works for them and able to equalize. And from there we just kind of kept on doing it and doing it and doing it. And I think last year's team would, like I said, I think would fell apart, and then we would have just been very erratic, just trying to force things up top, and probably would have ended up getting routed. You could have ended up, like I said, if that was last year, probably would have lost like 4-0, something like that.
I think it also might come down a little bit to confidence. I mean, as we haven't really referenced it here, but SAFC's won all 4 matches so far this season. They were coming into this match one of 6 teams still unbeaten, along with Lexington, but obviously they're not anymore. And SAFC was the only team to have a perfect record. And so if you don't have that momentum, if you don't have that confidence, you have to wonder if maybe on another day, under different circumstances, would SAFC have that fight in them? Would they have that spirit to come back? Obviously, as we saw, this is just another win for SAFC on paper, but now the way they did it kind of adds a new dimension. You saw them go down 2 goals very early, and they were able to rally back from that. And yeah, they got a little bit of luck on their side too, but that's only going to add fuel to the fire of their confidence, I'd say.
So the second half, I think if you actually look at the flow of it here, it kind of felt Lexington kind of commanded the second half. I told Roth at the watch party if they can weather the initial storm coming out, because you figure Lexington was going to come out with a little bit more fire like they did the first half. But SanAntonio FC was able to withhold it. And then as you can see, it kind of leveled out where both teams kind of just couldn't really break down. It was going back and forth. And then in the 82nd minute, Madranda crosses left, a great chest by Lacava, which I was like, oh my god, it went too far forward, but he was able to poke it past Logan Ketter for the goal, which I was extremely excited because I'm going to toot my horn, but when we were on with Tyler from Crane Kicks Lex, the player that I said to watch out for from SanAntonio FC was Jake Lacava, because you could kind of tell he's been getting closer, but he never had that kind of breakthrough moment. And like I said here, for him to be able to get the winning goal like that, to me, I think it's just gonna help push him even further. And I know Jonathan's gonna say, hey, Lacava's looked good earlier this year and a couple of games ago.
Well, I mean, I was actually going to mention, like, he did get an assist in the previous match. That was his first official goal contribution of the season, but also 2 goals and an assist in preseason, including.
I don't count preseason, man. Come on.
Oh, okay. Well, for what it's worth, though, like, in front of our very own eyes in the preseason match against El Paso that was open to the public, he scored and he assisted. So, I mean, it's something that I don't know.
But you could feel it coming. You could feel it coming, though. But he hadn't put it together. Rafa, you want to talk about how much skill that took from Jake? Because, like I said here, when he bounced it off his chest, I was like, oh, here we go again.
Well, if he leans back, it's gonna go over the crossbar. Luckily for him, he was able to kind of lean forward, kind of direct that shot. That way, it stay at that angle to get it in, or even going low too, or he probably would have scored it anyways. But if just leaning back would have kind of altered that shot. Like you mentioned, he's taking full advantage of his opportunities. One thing is, like I said, I think Lakava kind of played out of position last year, and then there was also no set rule for him.
Well, there's no
He
set rule
really,
for anybody.
yeah, bro, that too. He looked really lost. This year, you can see he's playing with a purpose. But the thing is, he's being a contributor. He does, like I say, he's not going to be one to score like 10, 20 goals. But if he can contribute to some passes or the setup of the play and so forth, and getting, like I said, game like maybe a couple of game winners like that. I mean, that's going to be his role, and it's only I think he's going to build more and more upon that, and then hopefully that him being a little danger up front, hopefully that'll kind of open up the gates to some of the other players like with Pacheco or like I said, when Agudelo gets in or Grieve. Like I said, it's by committee, and that's what we want. I guess we want to see this coming season. It's this since we don't have a really true target number 9 that can really that's your kind of your 15, 20 goal scorer. It's going to be by committee, but the thing is, someone's going to rise up to the occasion. That way, we're not going to get marked all the time. So, kind of pick your poison type of deal.
So just to kind of let know who came on and who came off. Where'd that screen go? I just deleted it. So the first sub, unfortunately, we haven't addressed this here. Mitch Tainer went out in
The 57th minute.
57th minute. He went down in the box. He kept holding his calf. I think the announcers and everybody thought, hey, maybe it was a cramp. The trainers came out, and then after a couple minutes, they were signaling, "Hey, we got to sub out." I know in the highlight with game-winning goal, or when the game was over, you could see they had his calf wrapped up with ice on it as well. So hopefully, it's not serious. Go ahead, Rafa.
Well, I was gonna say, well, also the great save he made from that
Oh yeah,
from that header that he was able to clear that out. That could have really changed the game there.
yeah, because that'd have been another goal for him. But yeah, it's through there. And then we did find out with Mitch out that Cronelli is the vice captain, I guess is what it is, because he got the armband for that here. And go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say, was anybody surprised that Blanco started this game? I know he had been out. That maybe he would maybe come in as a sub, but he was able to put on the starting lineup.
Matt, it was Tia Rendon. Now it's the Queen's birthday. Okay.
Anyway, yeah,
We've
from my
moved on, Matt.
yeah, from my perspective, I mean, it was a bit of a surprise to suddenly see Blanco
Mhm.
in the starting lineup when he hadn't, I mentioned in my sort of recap, one of the things to note was those were his first minutes of the season. And he actually, even beyond that, he got subbed out in the 84th minute. So he went
Yep.
Mhm.
just his first action of the season, 84 minutes, in, you know, not the easiest match for SAFC, obviously. So I would certainly say that's a surprise for him to just jump right into the starting lineup. At the same time, like we've alluded to, Madronda moved forward, sure. Gomez, I think you had mentioned, wasn't even on the
Been
bench.
out.
Maybe, yeah, coming back from international duty is not ideal. So Blanco was called upon, and he was able to go pretty much the entire match.
So the 84th minute, Nicky Hernandez replaced Luke Hawkinson. Lucio Baron replaced Nelson Flores, and Juan Osorio replaced Jimmy Madrana. And then in the 89th minute, Dimitri replaced Diego Pacheco. So used the full 5 subs for that here. Um, to me, like I said, Nelson starting, I didn't see that. But then again, former San Antonio FC loanee Hugo Mbongo was signed, I think Friday, right? I think
Yeah,
it was
Friday.
Friday, and got into sub for Corey Burke, for Lexington to be I think it's their sixth or seventh former SAFC connection to to Lexington for that here. But to me, my big takeaway here, and I'm gonna number one just through the from USL stats on Blue Sky. Pardon me, USL analytics at USL stat on Blue Sky. Said we had 3 goals, a 1.3 xG, 9 shots, 4 on target. Lexington 2, their xG was 1.44, 16 shots, 4 on target. But I want to point out, and I know this is probably going to be odd, Kerryon Sargent from Lexington, their left back, gave SanAntonio fits. So I don't understand how he got a 38 as far as their playing rating. That I don't understand, because between him and Epps, like they had Epps at 76%. Those two took, especially early, took SanAntonio to the woodshed and stretched them as far as defensively for that here. And I believe Kerryon Sargent's part of on the Dynamo that's loaned up to there. That kid looks special. He is from Georgetown. He's a real young player. SanAntonio FC, if you get the opportunity, don't lose his number, because he looks special. And like I said here, I'd be remiss to mention Epps had a great game. Kendall Burks, I know, as president of the Kendall Burks fan club, I thought he was solid. DeFall played well. I wish he would have got more time with there. But Kerryon Sargent for Lexington was the star for me. Rafa, any thoughts on Sargent? Like I said, I know he's a young player. I know he doesn't play for Antonio FC. I think the 38 is criminal as far as the rating here, but I know you have a lot more soccer knowledge than I do. Maybe you can understand.
That was a little surprising that he has a 38. You would think maybe in the 60s. I mean, he did get beat a couple times, but I mean, he was causing a lot of problems, making runs from the back, especially. I know. If I to mention this, like Buckmaster looked lost back on some sides.
Yeah.
He was getting beat, and a lot of that had to do with Sargent sending a lot of those through balls. The that for him, I think he's going to be maybe one to keep an eye on. I think still going to be developed. It's lots of time to develop, and I wouldn't be surprised he ends up, playing, maybe MLS, or Europe, kind of like Jose Gallegos. Uh, he's under, like I said, sky's the limit for him, and maybe we could steal if Lexington kind of tanks this season. Hey, we can make a transfer. Hey, we can use the left back or just add a depth to the team. But I mean, good. Like I said, for kudos to, like I said, Lexington. I mean, hopefully, good luck to them the rest of the season, except when they play us. Um, but for, like I said, just a great win for us, and looking forward for the next one.
Any final thoughts as far as from the players that you want to go into, Jonathan, from the player interviews? I think it was just Luke that spoke, if at least on the SAFC release for that here. I don't know if you had access to any others that spoke after the game.
Yeah, I mean, I included quotes from both Luke and Jorge, kind of talking about the team's resilience, and sort of with Luke, it was more in the match. With Jorge, it was more sort of the way they train, and that fight that you see over the course of the week. I mean, nothing too. I think honestly, Yamosa talking about the changes that the team made was probably the most insightful thing from the post-game interviews, and we obviously already went over that. So it's one of those moments when the team can kind of just bask in not just a win, but a comeback win. I said it earlier. This kind of adds a new dimension to SAFC, And it's not one of those where, I mean, I at least, you guys know I'm not going to do this. I'm not losing my mind saying, oh, don't even bother playing the season. SAFC's champions now. No. Because we saw in that first 15, 20 minutes, SAFC has vulnerabilities. But they showed from the player perspective that they've got the fight to claw it back. And from the coaching perspective, Umosa was able to see one of the big issues and adjust for it. So that bodes well for SAFC going forward from multiple angles. So, it just, again, I'm not saying SAFC is going to be champions, but it maybe takes them up another notch. You say, okay, they're not just, even when things are going against them, they're going to be able to handle it from a mental and footballing perspective.
Now, I will say here, despite if you go to Bluish Moon blog at bluishmoon.wordpress.com, one of the things he did mention, what to know, with 4 wins, SAFC sets a record for the best winning streak to start the club in a season history, surpassing 2022's run of 3 wins out of the gate here. I always kind of question that because I thought SAFC had a longer unbeaten, and I think this is the difference, unbeaten streak. But this is the first time that they've started the season 4-0. They have a big game against CBS on
Well, I mean, you can finish, but I get after this because I know. Okay, so you are right. SAFC has had a much longer unbeaten run to start the season. 99% sure it would have been 2017 because
I'm almost positive,
yeah. I mean, it was 3 months before SAFC lost a match that season, I think, and it was in Colorado Springs. I remember it was in June. So
was that
again,
the game that it hailed that it so much it looked like
no. That was so again. This great run to start the season, unbeaten run. That was 2017. 2018 was the crazy hail game at the end of June. Man, what an experience! That will always be one of my favorites. For anyone who has never seen them, come to me at a tailgate or something. I'll be happy to go find those pictures for you. It genuinely looked like it snowed on that field. And again, in June, the weather was nice. We were in Colorado for a week leading up to that. The weather was great. It was 70s, 80s. And then for some reason, midday Saturday, storms blow in. We get hail. Weirdest night. But yeah, so 2017 is probably the longest unbeaten run to start the season. And that's, again, if it happened in June, that's going to take a while for SAFC to equal.
Yeah.
But in terms of starting the season on a winning streak, 2022 was the record with 3 wins. And then in early April, the team that ended that start was... Anyone want to take a guess here?
Phoenix.
Bingo! SAFC fans, you'll hope history does not repeat itself, because, I mean, we're not going to get into the preview, because obviously there's a separate show for that now, but that's your next opponent. We'll see. Because even in that landmark SAFC season, 2 losses to Phoenix, somehow.
We're 54 seconds in, and people are now saying Mike sounds bad. And so first I thought it was Mike Check sounds bad, and then Mike Check goes, Mike Check sounds like shit. So
yeah,
hopefully this sounds better.
It sounds better now.
Said anything 54 minutes into the damn show. Thank you guys.
Well, it was fine until the last
second 10 minutes, yeah. Or a good little.
So I wonder what flipped.
I don't know.
John, I ain't scared of Phoenix, but let's not forget last year.
Mm-hmm.
We lost to Miami FC. Mm-hmm. They won 3 matches all year. We were one of those 3. Or they won.
Those are the next 2 games.
Those are the next 2 games. And for people that's not keeping track of it, Phoenix lost their best center back last night to a red card, 2 yellows, which is a red, and then lost their defensive midfielder who had to drop back into center back to fill in because Phoenix is basically, they're so depleted that former San Antonio FC, Darnell King, had to sign a 25-day contract to fill out a legal roster, and he got minutes. And he's been retired, I want to say 23?
2 years,
2023 is
3
when
years.
Darnell King retired. The great Darnell King, by the way, for that here. So Phoenix is coming in wounded, but don't sleep on them. They're a proud franchise. But yes, it is Rising Hate Week that I call it here. I love my friends with Phoenix here, but this week I hope you guys lose to everybody and everybody stays hurt in a non-serious way along those lines here. But to wrap up on the win against Lexington, road win, still the only team that has not lost or dropped points. I don't know what's the proper term for that here. 12 points. Lou City is next in the table at 10 points for that here. Still way too early to kind of look at it here, but 4 games in, I don't think even the rosiest San Antonio FC fan would have thought they would have been undefeated at this point. Rafa, your thoughts on wrap up of the game?
I mean, it just showed. I think this team has a different attitude compared to last year, and I think you can tell that they do sacrifice themselves as far as plays and so because if you notice we did block a lot of shots and people give up a lot of their bodies just to block those shots, like especially like some of the shots that Epps was trying to shoot. We stopped a lot of those. You can tell there's like a cohesion that it's like an effort, like it's kind of like one for all for one type of deal. And Moses caught them believing, and also he's letting them play. That's the biggest thing. He's letting them play. He's letting them. He's not putting the pressure, and maybe something also in the practices too. And that's something we heard a lot the last few years when we're seeing that the practices were kind of intense and so forth. Also may has a different approach, and maybe that's why we haven't seen that many people on the injury list. I mean, um, and that's why, and he knows how to take care of the players, and is it's getting the best. The one thing is he's getting the best of every single player, whoever he puts in, and like I said, and they're fighting for him, but also they're fighting for the team. I think with those 10, especially the 10 that return back, I think that they want to prove something, and then we got the right pieces to help us. And who's to say? I'm not trying to get ahead, but literally we could, especially these next 2 games. I mean, we could be 6-0. If that happens, that will say something about this team, and I think it's going to turn a lot of heads at the USL. They're like, hey, you know what? This team might be for real, and maybe even better than the championship team as far as well as far as as
Stop.
far as
No.
as far as cohesiveness. Like I said, because like I said, it's a little bit different. They have a little
When did
different
Matt get on the
attitude.
show?
I'm also saying this. They have a little different attitude, and like I said, like when Check said, my team could win out. That's the thing is I think they're playing with less pressure on themselves. They're just going out there, have fun, but go win games. So I'm just saying is as far as the attitude, I think it's a little bit different from this team. And like I said, they could be a little bit better as far as the approach of some of these games for them.
And I got to correct myself because Jenny Check's like, I knew my team could win. Yes. I'm sorry for saying even the rosiest because Jenny Check always thinks they will win, which is why we love her for that here. So I'm sorry.
I mean, for the record, I also love her because I exist because of her. So, there's that.
Yeah, we don't have to go that far.
What? I'm not getting into the details. I'm just saying.
Yeah. So, but yeah, so big, and this is something that we're gonna try to post up, and I might see if I can reach out to Matt, Jason, Rafa, Stuart, see if we can get him on to kind of help promote this week match against Phoenix. It's on CBS. There's a lot going on in town with it being the Final Four week. Big CBS is in. I know the University of Houston made it here. I haven't seen who the other team
all the number ones.
All the number ones. So Florida,
Auburn,
Duke, and
Auburn.
and through there. So, but to me, like I said here, a lot going on. So be safe, be smart. I know what the supporters are trying to get 119 sold out. So I may give up my seat there, see if AJ can bring some of his friends in 114, and then I'm going to go over to the supporters section in 119 just to have a great turnout for that here. So this is a game, if you can bring somebody, if you want to cash in, if you're a season ticket member, some of your bonus tickets, to bring a friend, reach out to the supporters groups, FTC, or 210 Alliance for tickets, because I think they have tickets that they're able to sell specifically for their section. Rafa may be able to speak a little bit more on that than I can.
Or you can also reach out to the I think the SanAntonio FC Premier page on Facebook. Like I said, they'll usually post info on there, so make sure to go on that page. Like I said, have questions. Most of the guys will answer there as far as links to getting those tickets there, especially in the bunker, the body of 210 section for the supporters. And I know the tailgate's going to be a little earlier because the game tends at 3. So just be aware of that. It's a little
get
bit
there
early.
at 11. Maybe have some mimosa,
breakfast
tacos if you get there early. If you get there after there, they may have moved on from breakfast tacos for there. I know AJ's got a game, so I'm gonna have to see if I can figure out if somebody can come pick him up or
send him an Uber.
Home. Yeah,
he can walk.
That's what I may do is see, but so that'll be something to kind of think about. But with everything that's going on, go ahead, Rafa.
I was gonna say, like I said, just reach out to the guys and stuff, and we want to pack it up. Like I said, we want to show all the USL, especially on being live on CBS. Like I said, this is not on Golazo. This is actually on CBS. Where they do show
big
the NFL
CBS,
games
nationwide.
Big CBS nationwide. So let's show what San Antonio is all about. Let's pack the house, and especially in that section, and we're gonna bring it. The guys are gonna bring it, and we're gonna hopefully lead the guys, cheer them on for another victory, go to 5-0.
Final thoughts. We'll start with you, Jonathan.
All right. Well, first of all, before I forget it, we had the bit of trivia at the start of the show. The 32s that have played for SAFC this year, it's Andres Paredes. In 2022, it was Atez Diouf. And if you haven't figured it out by now, in 2020, midfielder turned sideline reporter Hayden Partain was the other one. I wonder how many people actually got that. Like I said, it's maybe not someone that you'll think of immediately, not someone you remember, but I went through every single roster every year, and he was actually, I guess, technically the first one to wear the number for SAFC.
Hold on before you get to your final thought. There is one more thing that I have to bring on. Oh, hold on. Wrong one. Dang it. Thought I had it queued up.
Harry.
There we go.
You're better than this.
SAFC versus Las
Palmas.
May 31st, 8 p.m., Toyota Field. It's a Saturday night game. SAFC has a Wednesday game against Tulsa earlier in the week for that here. I know this was on the thing here. You want to go into how it was mistakenly leaked there, J-Check?
Well, so interestingly, this had leaked last Monday, and we had actually had to push the show back to Monday night. So we did get to discuss the leak back then. We at least kind of alluded to it. But I guess if we want to go into more detail, on Monday, it was sort of accidentally sent out as a notification through the SAFC app. And I think you could also see it on the homepage there at some point. And it was, this graphic and everything, you think, okay, at that point it seems fairly official, but then SAFC scrubbed it. You try and click on the notification, it's not leading anywhere anymore. And then Tuesday, Las Palmas announces it, SAFC announces it, it's official. It's the same details. A little interesting to me that technically SAFC is switching to the summer start time in May. Obviously the last day of May, but nonetheless, it's in May, 8 p.m. So sorry, Aaron, because I know one of my press box colleagues did not like that later start time. But it's just really neat. Yeah, it's just really neat to have the first Spanish side coming to Toyota Field. Be hesitant. Maybe don't say the first La Liga side because they're currently sitting in the relegation zone. So
they're gonna be relegated soon.
yeah. This may be a situation like Cardiff in 2019 where they were in the Premier League and then they got relegated and then they came to SanAntonio. So yeah, but I mean this is
the field is a lot better now than it was when Cardiff City came.
No, but I mean this is the beauty that we have to look forward to in a couple years with promotion and relegation is just say Spanish club, Welsh club, American club, there's no guarantee what league they're going to be in if you have that system. Makes things interesting. Unfortunately for SAFC, in those two cases, it's meant that they can't hype it up by saying, "Oh, Premier League team, La Liga club." But nonetheless, it's going to be neat. And honestly, I was actually thinking about this earlier. This is the first time I can recall SAFC having these sort of stated partnerships with clubs like this, particularly internationally. There was maybe a question of whether there was one in the early years with Santos Laguna. They came for a friendly in 2017 and 2018. But Darmstadt and UD Las Palmas are these two teams that SAFC has formalized agreements with. So now it's going to manifest in this friendly. And I think from what it sounds like, they've had discussions, on a club level, I guess, some of the people in the front office and whatnot of collaborating and all that. So it'll just be interesting to see how the relationship grows in various ways.
Back to your final thought, since I robbed that from you.
Honestly, I mean, I guess I'll say it'll be interesting and kind of exciting, I guess, with this weekend's match being on big CBS. I'm sure they're going to have some more pomp and circumstance than usual, maybe get the pyrotechnics out. So just kind of looking forward to the event. It's been a few weeks since we were at Toyota Field. From what it sounds like, I mean, you can't trust the weather a week out, but it might be yet another windy match. So hopefully it's not too chaotic out there, but it should be an exciting one. And it doesn't mean that much for me, but it's still exciting to have this opportunity for SAFC. And also, since I referenced him a few minutes ago, unfortunately, Aaron does not like the summer start time. But one thing that I can tell you, for years, he has been begging for is an afternoon game for SAFC. So you know what? Here you go. Here's your chance. And we have told him, we're like, if you miss this, you have to be here because you have talked about this for literally years. This has been, your pet project. It's happening. You better show up. And hopefully you can be quiet about it for another 5 to 10 years.
We'll see how it goes for that here. So yeah, looking at the weather. Oh, Saturday. No, it's Sunday.
Friday and Saturday they're expecting rain.
Rain 89. It's 89:63 a.m. thunderstorms. Saturday 81:50. Sunday 68:47. So it's going to be a little bit cooler. Winds north 10 to 15 miles an hour during the day. But partly cloudy there. But so UV index 8 of 11. So if you get sunburnt or sunburn easy, be careful along those lines here. And if you want to get up with the sunrise at 7:17, that's the full service Rafa weather report brought to you by Rafa for that here. Rafa, or I'm going to do my final thought, and then Rafa, you can get us out. My thing here is this week's a big week for SanAntonio FC. I know I mentioned that I like that you guys are promoting this, but we aren't hearing from SS&E about the game. I'd imagine they'd have bigger interest in filling the stadium. I kind of feel like SAFC's promoting it quite a bit. I know the league is promoting it. I'm not on the Spurs side too much for that here. I'm sure Spurs fans can kind of clarify here, but I do think for this game, SSNE and SAFC will have a good turnout for it. Whether it's artificial with Spurs season ticket members getting tickets along those lines here, however that they do it, I do expect the Toyota field to be 80-85% full. Most likely here. I would estimate. Jonathan's giving me the you're high, Harry. Look here.
It should be more.
Well, no, but I'm just saying conservatively 75-80% because it is a 3:00 game. I think it'll be a sellout. I think that they'll announce it as a sellout personally, but I'm trying to lower the expectation that way you can meet them.
Whether it actually is a sellout is another matter.
Yeah, maybe some Final Four people would probably go to the game because, like I said, the final's not till Monday night.
That's true.
So there is a maybe some of the team, maybe they bring some of the players from those teams are coming in.
Hey, you know what? Here's an idea, Matt. Here's what you can do. Since you're part of the Surge, reach out to the Surge because the University of Houston's going to be in town. Hopefully they win on Saturday because I got them winning it all in my bracket. Reach out to them. Say, hey, come to Toyota Field so you can actually see a team that wins. Here we go. Solution solved. And that's going to be my final thought. I found the solution. There we go. Rafa.
So, my I don't know how to top that, but my final thought, like I said, just hopefully, like I said, we do get the 5th win of the season versus Phoenix. It's going to be a tough game, but I think it's a winnable game. I think with the guys, I think from what they accomplished this weekend, I think they can move that. They have that momentum going into this one, and like I said, right now Phoenix is vulnerable, and that if they can come up with a game plan to kind of take them out early, hey, like I said, we can get a win. And also shout out to all the teams, our high school team, area teams. They're still alive in the playoffs, regional finals. Shout out to the Piper girls, Spencer Valley girls, Davenport, Lavernia, Southwest boys. Yep, Southwest boys. Also Wimberley. Like I said, Fredericksburg too. They got a big game against Austin Chiefs. So good luck to all our Region 4 teams from our area that we covered with the Roundtable. Hopefully, I think maybe we'll probably do a show Wednesday. We'll see a little roundup as far as a little preview to the state semifinals, and then as far as coverage of our teams, and maybe get a coach on, see if we can work on that, get someone on to kind of discuss the season and about the program.
So, do I think Sam, Jenny, Mike,
some guy that came out in a commercial,
Matt,
USL,
Aguilar 210, who's now under Diet Kool-Aid. I'm not sure why he had to change. Is he hiding? Barcelona won, right? So
thanks to the refs.
Oh, it's always thanks to the ref, and it's always against the refs when Real Madrid loses. That's the Drama Madrid fandom there. Thank you to Royce for all your support. Sorry we missed you tonight. Thank you to Robert. Thank you to Matt. Hopefully you're okay with the Dynamo loss, and happy birthday to your mom. if it really is her birthday, we'll just say. I love you, Matt. Jason, thank you for the support. And like I said here, we'll see if we can get you on for Sunday. Oh, that's the other thing.
And
The Saturday. Oh, good.
I was gonna say also a happy belated birthday to Miho, also
Yes.
from FTC.
Thank you for the invite, Matt. Even though you didn't show up because you went to another party before, I didn't know you double booked to it here. But I went to Miho's. You went to was it Area 210's podcast birthday party, which is great podcast. Also show that covers more of the Spurs along those lines here in San Antonio in general. But we are going to get out of here because Royce is going to be like, you went how long? With just three of you for that here. But it was a big game to talk about. Lots to talk about for that here. We had 5 goals, a comeback, and we are out. And what's life without goals? Peace.